Okay, welcome back to the channel. This is Roberto with Full Curl Precision again. A couple exciting things. There we go. Got a couple of boxes in. There we go. Show the difference real quick. Here's the standard size template for your insert, kind of like that one. And then you have this really thick one for the magnums. And there you go. I fit some 300 Win Mag in there. You can kind of see that they hold them really well. There we go. Got a couple others, so if anybody's interested in some, we have some. But for tonight's video, we're talking about two Dangerous Game cartridges. The 375 H&H versus the 375 Ruger. Now, when we talk about these types of cartridges, we need to keep in mind a couple things. One, they are designed for dangerous game. So I was thinking about the type of environment. Typically, what you're seeing are uses in areas like Africa for like Cape Buffalo, lion, hippo, rhino. That's what they're using them for. But you'll also find these cartridges used a lot in areas like Alaska, or even parts of Australia where they're dealing with wild cattle, or even like New Zealand. So you're going to find that these have very specific use. But oftentimes they're used in thicker terrain where you're not getting very long shots. Most of your shots are happening within 75 to 100 yards. For those who are in countries where they use the metric system, oftentimes 100 meters is considered a long shot with these types of cartridges because you're often hunting in thicker terrain. Ask anyone from Africa or from New Zealand when they're dealing with the thick terrain there. They'll tell you exactly most of those shots are happening even oftentimes inside 50 meters. The same thing if you're up in Alaska, though, and you're hunting moose or brown bear, you're oftentimes in very close quarters. And so it's nice to have a big thumper cartridge. So I went through and I found the common weight for both of them, which was 270 grains. Yes, you can go lighter, and yes, you can go heavier. Some of them went up to 300, some of them went a little heavier than that. But as an average, a 270 grain bullet seemed to be a common theme between all manufacturers. So I went with a 270 grain. But also because of the type of hunting, being that more lean towards dangerous game hunting, I decided to go with a solid bullet. So this go around, I'm using a Barnes BND solid round nose, 270 grain. Now the other thing to keep in mind is oftentimes, even though the data is reflected in like a 24-inch barrel, most of the time these stocking type rifles are between a 22-inch barrel and a 20-inch barrel. Actually, Ruger oftentimes does that with their 375 Ruger 20-inch barrel because they're meant for thick, dangerous game. Because you're not shooting very far, so you don't need a long barrel. So I did this out at a max of 400 yards, but I established some parameters. As an average, both of these are not uncommon with a 22-inch barrel. I'm using IMR 4831, which is really good for your Magnum type cartridges where you're dealing with heavy bullets. And then also, again, using the same exact bullet type, using 100 yard zero. And here's the BC, a G1 BC of 0.207. Again, the BCs on these aren't going to be phenomenal because, again, most of your shots aren't very long range. Most of the time, max typically, you're only shooting most 200 yards to, again, for those who are overseas, 200 meters. You're not shooting very far. The difference between meters and yards at that range, you're within a few feet. So it's not a significant amount. So I'm not going to argue which one is this or that. So besides all that, let's just get into the numbers. This one actually kind of surprised me. I kind of thought the Ruger was going to take over, but it didn't. Again, I looked up the max pressures on them and I pushed them to the limits. Here we go. So starting off with the 375 H&H. It's been around a long time. It is the parent casing that inspired the 300 Winchester Magnum, the 7mm Remington Magnum, the 338 Winchester Magnum, and a whole slew of Magnums, even the 264 Win Mag. So this is a historical cartridge that has been around for a long time and is really the inspiration behind many of the loved Magnums that exist today. So if you like 300 Win Mag and you like 7 Rem Mag and the 264, and even Norma made their own Magnums, the belted Magnum phase started a lot with this cartridge. So here's some history in the making, and it's still kicking butt. Here you go. With 81.3 grains of IMR 4831, you have a muzzle velocity out of a 22-inch barrel of 2703. That is moving, especially when you consider it's pushing a 270 grain bullet. Muzzle energy 4380. Talk about an absolute shoulder cannon, something that hits hard. Check this out. At 100 yards, you got velocity of 2284 feet per second, 3128 foot-pounds. Obviously, zero drop. That's a zero range. 200 yards, 1904 feet per second, 2174 foot-pounds, 5.2 inches of drop. 300 yards, you have 1570 feet per second, 1478 foot-pounds, and 20.3 inches of drop. 400 yards, you got 1294 feet per second and 1004 foot-pounds of energy with 49.8 inches of drop. Yes, these are going to tank quick because they are heavy bullets. They're not moving at, 3,000 plus feet per second, and they don't have a great BC. These are just round nose hunks of metal to just punch a big hole. That's what they're designed for. I pushed it out to 400. They're really not designed for 400 yards. These are dangerous game cartridges designed to hunt within very limited range. But just for the sake of comparison, we're going out to that distance. Coming in at a very close contestant here, 375 Ruger, 84.3 grains of IMR 4831, gets you 2689 feet per second with a muzzle energy of 4336. So you talk about a very, very close. I mean, look at that. So you're talking a difference of only 14 feet per second between them. But what I find interesting is the 375 is doing the same velocities with less powder. These are very, very close. I mean, I'm sure if you were to toy with different powders, you might get different results. But I chose a very common powder that is well known in Magnums and does the trick. So that's what I'm going with. And again, if you're shooting only within 100 yards or 100 meters, are you really worried about just how close they are? No, because it's not going to matter. Again, that muzzle energy, you're talking a difference of like 44 foot-pounds. It's not enough to matter. So at 100 yards, you have 2272 feet per second, 3094 foot-pounds, 0 inches of drop, obviously 0 range. 200 yards, you get 1893 feet per second, 2148 foot-pounds, and 5.3 inches of drop. 300 yards, you get 1561 feet per second, 1460 foot-pounds, and 20.5 inches of drop. And at 400 yards, you got 1287 feet per second with 993 foot-pounds with 50.4 inches of drop. So you're literally talking like a half-inch difference, maybe a little more, because these are virtually identical. But I'm going to tell you this, for the guys who are all about, oh, you don't need a belted Magnum, well, I have a question for you. Show me a case where the belted Magnum is a problem. I've yet to see I've yet to see that situation. I hear some guys talk about, oh, they might catch in your magazine. That's user error. That's really what it is. It's user error. I've never had that problem. I've had 300 Win Mag, 300 Weatherby, 7 Rem Mag, and a handful of others, and I've never had a snagging issue on the belt on any of these magnums. So I'm gonna go with it's the nut behind the trigger if you're not able to feed your rifle properly. Uh, the 375 Ruger and the 375 in H&H are absolute powerhouses, amazing cartridges. Both will do phenomenally well. But, here's the one thing I will say. For as new as the 375 Ruger is compared to the 375 H&H, I have to give this to the 375 H&H because it's still technically faster. There's no way around it. I mean, it's so close, it's really irrelevant, but at the same time, the Ruger is not supplanting the H&H out of its position. There's still a very good reason why the standard is in most African nations when it comes to dangerous game hunting is the 375 H&H. It's still used today because it's just that good. So there it is. There's the comparison. I appreciate you guys giving suggestions. I'm always looking for more. I am going to be doing some others. Let me bring down this list. I can actually cross that off now. Let's see. Okay, I already crossed that off then. But there's some others I'm going to try to do. Yeah, there's some others, but here I'll pick another one tomorrow. I'll definitely message about it, or make a video. This one I'm looking forward to because I've never heard of the 7 Mashburn until recently. But I'm always looking to learn about new cartridges to me, and I'm going to see how well this works. Same thing with that 30 Gibbs versus 300 WSM. But this was a really cool comparison. Another really close one. I appreciate all the support. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. Hit that notification bell. Every little bit counts. We really are trying to make this grow and be as educational and fun as possible, and to do our best to be able to provide a good, solid learning experience to everyone that wants to learn it. So I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next time.